Talking baseball, baseball and the
Oh, welcome back, Birdland, to another episode of the Talkin Orioles Baseball Podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Benny Becker, and as you know, I am thrilled to be sitting down here talking Baltimore Orioles baseball with all of you. And I got to meet some of you earlier this week, Monday, down in Baltimore for the home opener. It was phenomenal, gang, and we have a fantastic episode on our hands, episode 46. We're going to be talking about the start of the baseball season. We are already 7 games into this Orioles season. We're going to be talking Gunnar, Cowser, and other injury news. Going to be talking about the new Orioles celebrations, possible extensions, and a little old, new fashion trend that the Orioles are bringing back this season. But before we get into the episode, gang, I just want to say thank you to all of our new listeners. We've met a few new fans, more than a few really, down in Baltimore on Monday. It was a fantastic time, but mainly I want to thank John and Jane, our good, close, personal friends, me and my fiance. They took us to opening day yet again this year, and we had a fantastic time with them. Huge thank you to those two. We absolutely love you two. And we met a lot of great people along the way, thanks to Jane really going out there and hitting the streets running, handing out business cards, meeting fans, pulling me over to talk to fans, and I love doing it. I'm more than happy to meet new fans, and I want to shout out the bartenders from the downtown Baltimore Marriott. I love it. Maria and Mike, they were fantastic. I drank more than my fair share of espresso martinis, and coming from a bartender, they do a great job making them. I absolutely loved them, but great people as well. Just wanted to give a shout out, especially Maria. That was our girl all night, hooking it up with the drinks, the best espresso martinis that I've found in Baltimore so far. So make sure you check her out. Make sure you head down to the Marriott bar and hang out with them for a little. They are good people. And I also want to give another shout out to our good friend Nick. We've been friends since childhood. Grew up in Woodcrest together, gang, and he is the reason we got this new Orioles batting helmet to my left. Gotta love it. Awesome decor. He was saying, I got this helmet for you. I need to bring it down. Eventually, he hit the studios, delivered it to us, and we got it on set now. So a lot of thank yous, gang. A lot of exciting stuff coming. Very excited also for our new listeners, our new followers. Be sure to check us out every Monday and Thursday for episodes this entire season. Check out our Instagram, our TikTok, our X at Talkin Orioles Baseball. Interact with us. Send me comments, send me questions. We'll put it on the show like I've told many of you, and we will talk about what you want to talk about, gang. We will answer your questions. We will comment on your comments. And we will interact that way at least until we get the phone lines up and running here in studio. But like I said, fantastic episode on our hands, gang. We have a lot to talk about today. We've missed our past episode because it was the start of the season, and then it was the home opener, and we were in Baltimore, and we were late, and we couldn't get down there on time. Going to do an episode live from Pickles, but that didn't work out this year. Maybe at some point this season, we will be doing that episode live from Pickles. So let's just jump right into it, gang. Like I said, a lot to talk about. We're going to start off with the start of the season. No other. Not the best and greatest start to the season, gang. At this point, the Orioles are 3-4 after today's loss to the Red Sox, but the season started up north in Toronto with a 4-game set. We split the 4-game set. We're not going to dig too much into these games, but we do want to highlight things here and there that we find important. Game 1 was a 12-2 victory. It was a great opening day for these Orioles. 14 hits, 6 home runs, tying the franchise record for opening day home runs. Tyler O'Neill, talk about records, broke his own record that he set last year on opening day with his 5th straight opening day home run. This year, he made it 6 straight. That's one of those baseball records you feel may never be broken, gang. 6 straight opening days with a home run. Certainly, he has made his presence known for his new team. That's something we'll talk about a little later on in the podcast. But also in that game, you had Adley Rutschman and Cedric Mullins each getting off to a hot start, each hitting 2 home runs in that ball game. Like I said, Orioles hit 6 home runs on the day. Zach Eflin, who got the opening day start, had a phenomenal start to his season. 6 strong innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, 2 Ks, 2 earned runs. That is a quality major league start, gang. That is what we were talking about, expecting from a lot of these starting pitchers this season. And again, that's going to be a topic we touch on later, not only Zach Eflin and his start, but just the rest of the rotation and not only what we expect, but what we've seen so far this season and kind of, what we feel about that moving forward. Game 2 of the Toronto series, it was an 8-2 loss, and this is kind of get used to this little yo-yo these Orioles are doing, because that's going to be the win-loss, how it kind of has started for these O's, at least up until today, and not in a positive way. So again, Game 2 of the Toronto series, 8-2 loss. We were up 2-0 before a 5-run 4th inning by the Blue Jays. Game really got away from Charlie Morton at that point. It was his first Orioles start, and he didn't look amazing up until that point, but certainly he was mitigating damage and really allowing no damage at that point, at least on the scoreboard, as far as the run category is concerned. However, that 4th inning comes, Jays tack him for 5. Really, the curveball, which is Charlie Morton's go-to pitch, was the one that was getting tagged the most that day. Ultimately, though, the Orioles only got 3 hits, 2 of which by Jackson Holliday. So, listen, even if we don't allow 8 runs on the game, you still probably don't win that game. Frankly, you're lucky to get 2 runs off of 3 hits. The offense just has to be better on that day. Game 3 was a 9-5 victory, getting the series at least to that break-even point of the 4-game set, giving yourselves a chance, to take the series the next day. In that 9-5 victory in Game 3, we hit 3 more home runs, 2 of which were from Jordan Westburg, 1 from Talkin Orioles, who led off the game with it. Phenomenal start by the offense. Phenomenal job by the offense, I should say. 12 hits in total. Kramer wasn't his best self, but wasn't awful either. 5 1/3. He did allow 5 earned runs on 5 hits, 2 walks. Did get 6 strikeouts. Not exactly where you want to see him, but certainly not horrible either. And not something you can't work with, clearly, as they got the win. The bullpen really came to work, though. No runs allowed in their 3 2/3 innings between Aiken, Cano, Soto, Dominguez, and Bautista. That's right, Felix Bautista had his first outing back in over a year since 2023, gang. So it was phenomenal to see him out there. We're going to obviously be talking more of Bautista as this episode goes on. Game 4, the last game in Toronto, was another disappointing one. We could have taken the series. Like I said, we did not capitalize, losing 3-1 on the day. Tomo Sagano started the day, actually had a pretty decent start. 4 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 walks, 1 K, 2 earned. Solid 4 innings. Unfortunately, when he went out there for the 5th inning and was warming up, he seemed to have cramps in both hands, apparently. Had to get pulled from the game. Now, this is something apparently he has dealt with previously in Japan, and something that at least he understands how to work through and how to get himself back. It is just cramping. It's not anything that he needs to be held out of, and we will see him next series in a couple days. So that's thankful that it was nothing serious, because in the moment, you're getting worried. You're like, oh man, I love the idea of Sagano. I love the idea of Tomo, and we saw at least how effective Tomo can be, mitigating damage, staying in the ball game, keeping your team in the ball game. So for him to leave was a little scary. It was very nice to see that it was not a major concern and that he will make his next scheduled start more than likely. Unfortunately, we really lost the game because we did get 9 hits, but we were 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position, just not taking advantage of those opportunities with guy in scoring position. And certainly if you have 7 opportunities, if you just drive in 1 or 2, or if you just drive in 2 of them, really, it's a tie game, gang. So if you drive in half of them, not even, we might win that game. So ultimately, though, that did not go our way. Every starter, though, when you look at the box score, did get a hit, except Jorge Mateo when he went 0 for 3. Still, 8 of our 9 starters getting a hit, and that's kind of what our lineup has shown a lot of these days, even on losses, where 7 or 8 or even 9 of the starters are getting hits through the lineup. And that's the kind of team we are, gang. We are the kind of team that 1 through 9 can cause damage. 1 through 9 can pick up that base knock. And that's one of the reasons why this lineup is just so dang scary moving forward for teams elsewhere that have to play us. Because when you're looking at this lineup, you don't necessarily see a weakness. You might see strengths. Gunnar, Adley, Westy, whoever you want, Mountie, O'Hearn, whoever's hot, Mullins. But you're not looking at even a Urias or a Mateo or a Holiday or a Sanchez when he's in there or any of these names and going, oh, that's a weakness. Maybe Laureano, maybe Carlson. But even then, sure, Carlson had a very tough day today. If you watch the game, you'd know that. I think he was 0 for 3 with 3 Ks, 2 of which a backwards K. Not what you want to say, but again, a 5th outfielder who might not even be on the team in a day, and that's something we will talk about soon. So let's move on to the Boston series, coming back home to the yard for the home opener. It's a phenomenal thing, and I was there. Like I said, me and my fiance were brought by Jane and John, our close personal friends. We were in the club level. Beautiful seats, perfect view of the field, and it was phenomenal. Unfortunately, I will say before I get into the actual game, I missed the first 2 innings. And that was because the traffic was atrocious. Not only just around the stadium, but the parking. I couldn't find a spot. And the irony is, had I gone to the spot that I usually go to, I would have found a spot instantly. The problem is that we went to the hotel, we went to the Marriott, and we thought that we were going to be able to park at the Marriott lot, and apparently they filled up, just like every lot filled up. We even got ourselves in one. They put the sign right behind us when we entered, no more cars were full, and we're like, we made it, last car. Nope, they instantly said, you got to get out of here. There I was trying to throw $20 bills to these guys, being like, can I park underneath that thing that's not a spot, but it would be a spot for us? Can we park in this compact car spot? Please. Didn't work, gang. They said no. So then we kept driving, ended up finding one, like I said, right behind the Ravens Stadium where I usually go to park. And unfortunately, we missed the first couple innings. However, by the time we got into the stadium, the Orioles were already up. We end up winning the game 8-5, but when we got in there, we had put up 4 in the first, and then we didn't score again until the 8th. Kind of annoying, but ultimately still got the job done. We were up 4-3 after 3 innings, and then no more runs were scored until we scored in the 8th, gang. Sox ended up scoring 2 in the 9th. That's how we get to that 8-5 final. Every starter got a hit in the lineup for the Orioles except Laureano, who we just mentioned. Povich, not his best start by any means, but definitely worked out of some tough jams. You saw the potential in Povich, and I think you saw the improvement in Povich when you look back to last season when we first saw him, because he would get in those jams and then he'd give up the huge home run. He'd get in those jams and he wouldn't be able to get an out. Monday, it was not the case. He got in jams. Even if he let up runs, he ended up working himself out of the jam. Ultimately pitched 4 1/3 innings, 5 hits, 2 walks, did strike out 8 guys, though, had that strikeout stuff working. Gave up 3 earned runs in the 4 1/3, but again, 7 base runners on, only 3 scoring. You'll take that. Keeps you in the game, working out of those jams and not putting your team in a deficit they can't work out of. That's what we saw from Povich, and hopefully we see a lot more of that moving forward. The bullpen had no runs until that ninth inning when we saw Felix Bautista have his first appearance back in Camden Yards since the injury in 2023. It was great seeing him. The place was electric with him coming out, and I think some of that got to him. The nerves got to him. He was a little all over the place. We are going to talk more about that. Ultimately, though, he does finish out the save and finish out the game, and the Orioles win that game. Unfortunately, that would be the only win we get in that Boston series. Game 2, we lost 3-0. Had to face Garrett Crochet, who just dominated us. 8 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 walk, 8 Ks, no earned runs, clearly, as it was a 3-0 victory for the Red Sox. Orioles, in fact, only had 1 runner in scoring position in the whole game, obviously going 0 for 1 in that. Eflin pitched great again, 6-inning pitch, 8 hits, but no walks, 5 Ks, 3 earned runs. Again, just keeping it in the game, keeping you in the game, allowing you to have a chance to win, allowing you to make that rally. They didn't that time, but a lot of times you are going to make that rally if your starter keeps you in the game like Eflin did. A nice quality start from Zach Eflin, although from that game, you can't help but think, what if? You can't help but look at Garrett Crochet and go, man, what if we made the trade for Crochet? What if he was throwing for us that day? And odds are he would have been, had we done that. Now, a lot of reasons why maybe it wasn't smart to trade for Garrett Crochet. He's a little unproven, has had a streaky past as far as injuries are concerned. Red Sox obviously just gave him a monster historical deal that was necessary if you were going to trade him and expect him to really pitch 8 innings into a game, pitch in the playoffs late, things that he wasn't willing to do last year without the contract. So, listen, I get it. That plus the prospects that it would have taken, sure. At this point, in this moment, if you were to tell me it would cost us Mayo, I'd probably do it. If you're telling me it's going to cost us Paseo, no, I'm not doing it still. So that's the question. Who were the White Sox actually asking for? Was it maybe Mayo and Povich? I would have done that. Maybe in the moment, but certainly now, even a week or a month in hindsight, I would have done it. Paseo, I wouldn't have. If they were gung-ho on we want Paseo, well, then I hang up just like the Orioles probably did. So you can't help but think what if, but certainly one start, seeing Crochet dominate you for one start, doesn't make you wish you really sold the farm for the man. Okay, now we'll see. If he does this all season long and he dominates and they go into the postseason and he's that guy for them and he's a guy that they can put on their back and make a run with, well, then, yeah, maybe you look back and you go, should have made the deal, man. Right now, though, I'm not willing to get there. I'm not willing to say we should have sold the farm for Garrett Crochet. Still, you get dominated in that game, too. You come back today for game 3, a nice day game, and you have the chance. It's the rubber match. You have the chance to win the series. Excuse me, I'm already so parched. Anyway, come into today with hopes of winning the Red Sox series. Unfortunately, that did not happen. We lost 8-4 today. We gave up 3 2-run home runs in the first, in the second, and in the 7th. Charlie Morton had some bad and had some good. 5 innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 walks, 2 2-run home runs, 4 earned runs given up in total. Not great. However, he had 10 Ks on the day. Actually historic for a guy his age, and really small territory when you're talking guys who have done that. Talking Randy Johnson, El Duque. I can't remember the third name that was listed. Neither here or there. That's about it that's done it, at least in recent history. Charlie did struggle with his control early. He got behind in some counts. He was pitching higher in the zone than he typically would like. Certainly the 2 home run balls were right down the pipe, right down the middle. That's when he got hurt. Other than that, he was kind of dancing around the zone a bit, but getting outs, getting swing and miss stuff. I still want to believe in Charlie Morton. Okay, gang? I don't want anyone losing their mind off of two, let's call it mediocre Charlie Morton starts so far. But that's something we're going to touch on farther down the line. We're going to have a segment where we talk about the starting staff, where it currently is, and where we believe it is going. So ultimately, though, today the Orioles started to rally a few times, it felt like, but just couldn't get over that hump. Whether they scored the run or they left the guys on base in scoring position, maybe, or maybe even not. Neither here or there. It looked like we had our moments where we were about to make that push, and we just couldn't get over the hump. Lose that game, lose that series, fall to 3-4 to begin the year. Certainly not where we want to be, but it's early, gang. 1 week into the season, you're not going to catch me losing my mind. You're not going to catch me losing faith, okay? And I don't want to hear you guys losing faith either. Because I think last year we can tell that adding pressure to all these guys is not the answer necessarily. Getting some positive vibes, positive energy back to them in tough moments is going to allow them to push through. And certainly there's some good news right around the corner. And that's going to lead us to our right next topic, the injury report, where we have some good and then we have some bad. The good we're going to start with because let's get on the positive train, guys. Let's get some positive vibes flowing, okay? So the biggest news and the biggest name on the IL right now is Gunnar Henderson, who's already missed the first week of the season. Luckily, he should be back tomorrow, gang. We were talking how maybe it would be into the second week, maybe even at the third week of the season. Luckily, it seems like he will be back tomorrow in the lineup. Most likely, the quote they've been saying is probable. I expect him fully to be back. He had 5 rehab starts in Norfolk. Really tore the cover off the ball, hitting like .330. 2 home runs, including an absolute monster shot yesterday, gang. I'm sure everybody has seen it. Typical Gunner, hanging slider, hanging curve, whatever it was, and he just turned on it and launched it into right field, gang. So that's exciting. That's very, very exciting stuff. Obviously, Gunner was our MVP last year, potentially best player on the entire team this year still, and it's exciting to get him back, gang. It was tough playing without him, but certainly the lineup's going to look a lot more dangerous moving forward, having Gunner at shortstop, most likely leading off most days. We saw Mullins actually leading off today, where he had a leadoff home run. Who knows when we'll see that next, because that tends to be Gunner's spot, and I don't see that changing. I haven't heard anything to indicate that's going to change. So Gunner back, not only at short, but in the leadoff spot, and just with the team in general is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Now, what do I expect the move to be? Correlating to that, I expect Dylan Carlson actually to get sent back down. Again, he had a really tough game today in his first start, 0 for 3, 3 Ks, 2 of which looking. Certainly, you're not going to ding a guy completely for that. However, when you have a roster crunch, it's probably the guy who didn't make the roster out of camp, like Carlson. Now, you might be saying that only leaves us with, I believe, 4 outfielders. Well, that's all right, because O'Hearn and Mateo can kind of provide some depth for this team in the outfield in the laps of Talkin Cowser, who we are going to talk about at a certain point in this topic. So, very exciting news that Gunnar Henderson's back, and I expect him to hit the ground running. Again, we saw what he did last year when he kind of was lingering out of camp, wasn't really playing because of an oblique injury. Came back, started the season very hot. We've seen the clips of his home runs down in Norfolk, and obviously that's against AAA pitching, but he does the same thing to Major League pitching when he's feeling himself, and I expect him to come back ready to roll. At the very least, after this road trip, give him 2 series in Kansas City, in Arizona, coming back to Baltimore for 3 series at home. I expect him to really be rolling by that point. But don't be shocked if by the time we're leaving Kansas City at the end of this week, Gunner's already proving why he was the MVP of this team last year. Some more good news by a big name on the IL, Grayson Rodriguez, who we know is in the process of ramping up, got shut down during camp, kind of had to restart his camp. It wasn't any surgery or anything needed, but just a little rehab and restarting the throwing program. Well, he's in that throwing program now. He's thrown 2 bullpen sessions as of yesterday. So he's ramping up still. He's still a little while out, at least probably 2, if not 3 or 4 weeks, I would guess. But he's progressing positively. And that's all you can ask at this point. Still believe that by May, we're seeing Grayson Rodriguez in this rotation. Hopefully healthy. Andrew Kittredge, the free agent reliever we brought in, who was supposed to be a bit of a X factor to this bullpen this year, obviously had knee surgery like we talked about a couple episodes ago. Expected him out 2, maybe even 3 months. Seems like he's feeling better right now. Seems like he's rehabbing really well, and he's progressing quicker. So initially, again, we thought maybe 2 to 3 months. Now it's seeing like a month, maybe 2. Seems like he's really almost ready to go personally, and the Orioles are just the ones kind of making sure he goes through and checks all the boxes before he gets back. So good news there. So now we're on to the bad news. We're going to start with the least of the bad and move to the worst. Albert Suarez being on the IL is the least of the bad. Now, his velocity was down at the start of the season. We know he had a rough camp. He's on the IL with shoulder inflammation at the moment. Not really sure how long he's going to stay there. I could see it lasting 2, maybe even 3, 4 weeks potentially, or being as quick as a week. You know, a week from now at least. I think it was a 10-day DL or IL stint. In the process, Matt Bowman got brought up, who has pitched pretty well so far. And the thing is, Albert's going to still be with this team when he's healthy, because the Orioles are viewing Albert as that kind of nice swing piece, long man in that bullpen, and he showed a lot last year. You know the guys absolutely love him. In fact, he's been in the dugout still, and he's been the certified fish in the dugout celebrations. Something we'll touch on a little later. You might be listening to me going, what the heck are you talking about with certified fish? I'll get there, gang. Big episode coming. Lot of stuff to talk about. And certainly the new celebrations are one of the things we're going to talk about a little later down the line. So now let's get to the big new injury, which is Talkin Cowser fracturing his left thumb, diving to first base during the series finale in Toronto. Really sucks, man, because you know I was big on Cowser. If you had listened to our past episodes, you know I was huge on Cowser. I was talking up the potential Cowser MVP talk, Cowser 40, 50 home run talk. Now, unfortunately, he's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks at least. Back hopefully at June at the earliest. It sucks, man. It really does. It's a huge loss for the O's. Luckily, he will be back for the second half and the stretch run and hopefully the postseason, but it stinks, man. Cowser's one of those X-factor players, and we talked about the analytics being thus of him hitting the ball extremely hard, having a great barrel rate, and really just needing to improve on his whiff rate. We saw that even though he didn't start out the hottest, he did hit that leadoff home run and looked like he was starting to maybe turn it on. It sucks that Cowser broke his thumb, man. I can't tell you just how pained I am by that, especially because of how much I talked him up coming into the year. Not necessarily that I needed to be right. Obviously, I was hoping to be right. But more just the fact that I wanted to see what he could do this season with this full season, staying healthy, and really being able to show how good of a player he is. Sucks that we're going to have to wait really a couple months until we see Talkin Cowser again. Bad loss, guys. But in the grand scheme of it, you're getting Gunnar back hopefully tomorrow. And in that, listen, you're still coming out positive. You lose Cowser, you gain Gunnar. Still going to be a net positive, most likely. Hopefully, Gunnar remains healthy. Everybody else, Keith, remains healthy. And then we can add Cowser back in a couple months and hopefully see who I thought he was going to be this whole season which is a potential MVP candidate, which obviously he won't be in the talk no matter how great he does after he comes back, because you can't miss 2 months and be in the MVP talk. But you could see the projection of what I was talking about, hopefully, when Cowser comes back. All right. So, talking about players coming back from injury, we have to have our Mountain report. Return of the Mountain. Felix Bautista, like we said, had his first 2 appearances back since 2023. Phenomenal to have the man back. When he was walking out to the mound at Camden Yards on Monday, the stadium was rocking, gang. The yard was absolutely electric seeing Felix, and it quickly turned the other way. But let's work to that, okay? So Felix, even though he's still throwing hard, hasn't thrown harder than 98 so far this season. However, the Orioles fully believe that he's continuing to tick up, and that eventually, whether it's in a couple weeks or a couple months, we're going to be seeing him living in the hundreds again with that fastball. The good news is that the splitter has looked really well, and that he is still working in these 2 new pitches, the cutter and the slider. And once he really gets a feel for it, I think they're going to be potentially big keys for him down the road this season. So a lot to still be excited about with Felix Bautista. To quote Brandon Hyde, he's not going to be perfect. There's going to be hiccups, and he's still figuring things out. It's been a while since he's pitched, especially in real meaningful games. And you saw home opener, the stadium was electric. The fans were going wild. It was a sellout. Everybody was rocking when he was coming in. And I think he got a little overhyped. Now, his first outing, he pitched really well, I would say. 1 inning, 1 hit, 1 walk, but 3 Ks. All outs were strikeouts. No runs given up. In this second outing on the home opener, he pitched 1 inning, which get used to, that's going to be what he pitches, 1 inning. Gave up 2 hits, gave up 2 walks, had no strikeouts, and gave up 2 earned runs. He also got to a point where he allowed the tying run to the plate. Not really something you're expecting when you're up, I believe, by 5 with your closer coming in. But, again, he's going to have hiccups. He's figuring it out. He's not going to be perfect, especially early. So, let's be easy on Felix, okay? Let's be easy. And also, again, understand that just that energy that he's walking into, he was a little overhyped. I mean, he threw a fastball that hit the backstop. He threw a splitter that hit the dirt at like 50 feet. So, yeah, he was a little worked up. He was spiking splitters. He was sailing fastballs. So he had to reel it in. He was clearly probably very emotional, and especially with the stadium rocking and excited for him, it was a lot. Expect that the next time he goes out, he's back to maybe that first outing where he pitches really well, maybe allows a man or 2 to get on, but striking guys out, not allowing runs, closing out the game in an easy fashion. Either way, phenomenal to have Felix Bautista back. I was at the Marriott bar after the game talking to some people about Felix Bautista, saying, be easy on him, give him a little time, and understand just how much emotion he probably had on that mound on Monday. So give him the benefit of the doubt. Trust that he's going to come back the way that he was. And understand that he's already shown signs of being that guy. I still love Felix Bautista and think that he's our guy moving forward. So now let's talk about the new celebrations. We mentioned it a little when we were talking about Albert Suarez, but let's get into it, or at least what I can piece together of it. So it seems like singles, when you get on first base, do a little wet willy action now. They go a little, and then go to the ear. I'm not sure if it's a wet willy or an ear cleaning, or we're going to need like a Ryan O'Hearn or somebody like that to kind of clarify. I haven't heard the clarification yet. If somebody has asked him, I kind of like it. It's a little silly, but it falls in the water theme. I know we all know that the Orioles have this water theme going the past few years, and I absolutely love it. I like switching it up a little. I like keeping it fresh. That seems like the guys are kind of enjoying it a little. Wet Willie celebration at first. Second, when you get to second, I don't know if when you get to third, I don't think we've had a triple yet. If third's going to have something different, but at least let's call it doubles for the moment. The hitter sends out a reel like a fish, and then they reel them back in, right? And then you have somebody in the dugout hooked, going for it. It's been Albert Suarez at the moment. I saw Cade Povich earlier today in the game do it. But I love it. How could you not love it? You'll send out a reel and start reeling it back in. And then it's fun. It's enjoyable. It seems like a lot of these guys like to go fishing. Goes into the hunting as well. We've talked about this hat that I got that I think a lot of players would enjoy on the team because it's kind of this hunting hat, and I'm far from a hunter. I do like to fish, though. I'm not a big fisher, but I like to fish. So I'm down with the reel now. Now, we're still on the look for some Homer hydration station. We've been told that there's something in the works. It was told in Toronto that it would have been ready for the Boston series at home. Apparently, that wasn't the case. We saw no signs of it. We only had one home run, and that was Cedric Mullins in the first inning today. But we'll see. We'll see what happens and what they work. I'm sure they have something coming. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see what it is. Either way, it still seems like the vibes are immaculate for this team. And I only expect that to continue growing. Them continue vibing together. Again, bringing in some hydration station, maybe a triples celebration. I don't know. And given that stuff only means so much. But I will say, and I have said in the past on this show, sometimes you see these team celebrations and you go, oh, that is stupid. Or, gosh, they are losers. Like, maybe not on the scoreboard losers, but you're like, just like when you're in school and you're like, oh, that guy's a loser. Not to bully anyone, but like, you see stuff sometimes and you're like, nah, like, you're never winning the World Series doing that stuff. But it's okay that it's a little goofy. It's okay to have fun and let loose and have enjoyment playing this kid's game. So you'll love to see this. And this is one of those, or these are these celebrations, the Wet Willie, the fishing reel, that seem to me like fun and enjoyable and something a winning team might do. I don't know. Again, it means nothing to the bottom line, but sometimes it's all about vibes, gang. Sometimes it's all about vibes. And we have a clubhouse of a lot of good vibe guys. A lot of bros. A lot of dudes being dudes. That's what these O's are. And I kind of enjoy the fishing because that brings them to something that they also love, just like baseball. I'm all about it. I'm all about it. Let's see what they do for the home runs. That's usually the scary one where a team might bust out a prop or something where you're like, that's too much or that's stupid. But even the too much or stupid ones can vibe with a tie, can vibe with a team, right? So we'll see. We'll see what the O's have up their sleeves for the rest of the celebrations this season. We'll see if the current celebrations get tweaked a little. That happens too. We saw that last year, them try something new and go back to the old. So what do I know? All I can do is watch them succeed and see how they celebrate off that success. Talking about vibes, though, and keeping the vibes, let's talk about the left field vibes. We know that the Orioles changed the wall yet again 3 years ago. They brought the tiny short porch of the old Camden Yards and pushed it way back and up for the new Great Wall of Baltimore, the Baltimore days. And now we know that they found kind of a happy middle this year, or hopefully a happy middle this year. I will say that already they're coming into play, at least for the away teams. The Red Sox had a few home runs, which would have fallen short of the old wall, but went over the new wall. And it's kind of cool how they almost kept, or they did keep the wall of the past few years kind of where the stands are, and they didn't move any of that. They just extended the wall in, but didn't add any more stands. So you can see clearly if a ball would have left the stadium the past few years or not. I don't know if they did that just to easily see how this thing is playing, or if they just thought it was the easiest thing to do. I don't know. But so far, the Orioles have yet to take advantage of that. The only home run that we've hit was that Cedric Mullins one over the right field wall. But eventually we will. We absolutely will be hitting home runs to left and left center this year, and we will take advantage of that wall. Still, potentially, though, it kind of has the potential, at least, to have negative effects. And the trend so far continues where somehow, some way, by dumb luck, if nothing else, or dumb bad luck, I would say, that the away team winds up taking advantage of that shorter porch, more than we do. And that it ends up costing us runs and games more than it would have. And I could see that. Then that's just an unlucky thing more than anything, I believe. But who knows? We'll see. Visually, though, I definitely like it more. It brings back more of the old Camden Yards feel that we know and love. When you look at it, it just feels more like the real park Camden Yards. Whereas the past few years, it's like, you look around and you're like, oh, I love Camden Yards. And then you see left field and you're like, that doesn't really look like Camden Yards, man. Like, that isn't the stadium I remember. This is a lot closer, at least look and visually, to the old Camden Yards that we all know and love. So personally, I like it from a spectator point of view. And I think eventually they're going to do something else with the kind of dead space in between the wall and the stands right now. Right now, they kind of have this standing room thing. It seems like they might bring down some kids and parents at times, but only a few. So then it's really empty. I don't know what they're going to do. I could see maybe them adding a bar or some kind of cool bar section right there. That would be awesome. I would enjoy that. A little restaurant thing going on that you could buy a ticket for, hang out, maybe an all-inclusive type food and drink type situation that you get a wristband and chill in there and you can eat and drink as much as you want. I would pay a good price for that. So we'll see. I think that would be dope, but we'll see what happens. I eventually think they do something with it because it kind of just looks a little empty and forgotten right now. Maybe they ran out of time. Maybe that's kind of just what they decided on this season and they said, whatever, it don't matter. We'll just allow some people and kids to stand out there at times. We'll see. I think they're going to want to utilize that space eventually. So let's see what happens. All right, so let's get to more important topics other than vibes and field fences, or left field fence and distance. All right, and let's talk about the starting rotation. And we're going to be talking about spotty starts, okay? Because that's what we've gotten so far this year. Outside of Zach Eflin, who's given us 2 very solid starts, the rest of them have been shoddy, spotty, whatever you want to say, crappy. I was going to use another 8S word, but we're going to try and keep it a little more PG, so go crappy, and you'll understand what I've been saying. But so far, the starters have not been great, gang. Been a little shaky and less quality than I expected. And ultimately, I do expect a guy like Morton, Sagano, and even probably Povich to be better moving forward. I'm still a little skeptical on a Dean Kramer, and still, frankly, Cade Povich. Less skeptical about Morton and Sagano just because they're such hardened veterans, not necessarily in MLB as far as Tomo goes, but just in professional baseball as a whole. They understand how to keep your team in it and how to be successful and how to continue to give your team a chance even on your not great days. And they understand the little tweaks and balances better than a Kramer or a Povich does. But still, Eflin is exactly who we needed him to be so far and exactly what we expected. But when it comes from the rest of them, dude, it's really where the rubber meets the road. right? Because I can sit here and tell you what I've told you coming into the year, which is we're going to get a lot of good quality major league starts that's going to keep our team in it and allow our offense the chance to come back and win games, or not even come back, just win games, put up more runs than the other team consistently, because your starting pitchers are only giving up 2 to 4 or 5 runs in 4 to 6 innings, right? Like, that's what I'm talking about, good quality major league starts. You're giving up, let's say, 2 to 5 runs in 4 to 6 innings. Your team's in it. If you do that as a starting pitcher, you're at least giving your team a chance to win that game, right? You're maybe not Garrett Crochet from the other night, where 8 innings of no runs and barely any base runners, okay? But you're at least keeping your guys in it and giving them the opportunity to win that game. And that's what I expect. And I could sit here and tell you that that's what's going to happen, and that's what I expect, and that's what I think. And it's all accurate, because that is what I think, and that is what I expect. But frankly, again, the rubber has to hit the road at some point. And that's when you're going to tell whether I'm right or I'm wrong. And whether these guys like Morton and Sagano and Povich and Kramer and even Eflin can put in these quality major league starts time and time again and give us the starts we need to keep us in the ball games. They're going to ultimately decide. I can tell you everything I want. I could tell you exactly what I think. But eventually we're going to see how these guys play. And we're going to see if they can consistently provide quality major league starts. Again, gang, I think that's what we're going to wind up getting. When we blink in the next month or two and we look back at the season so far, we're going to go, we've been getting a lot of good quality major league starts. That's what I think. I also could see the reality where I'm wrong. And we blink that month or two away and we go, gosh, this starting staff is brutal. I don't know. What I do know is that luckily down the road, we should have Grayson Rodriguez, Kyle Bradish, and Tyler Wells back. Those are 3 extremely big arms for this team. Now, Grayson and Bradish, much more than Tyler Wells. And we all know, if you've been listening to me since the beginning of last year, that I am the president of the Tyler Wells fan club. I love me some Tyler Wells. I thought Tyler Wells would be our closer last year without Batista. He got hurt so quick, it wasn't even funny. But hopefully Gray Rod can come back from, again, just a little bit of soreness and weirdness in his elbow, but no ligament damage, within the next month. Hopefully Kyle Bradish can come back maybe August. I was hoping maybe even a little before July. Let's just talk August, though, and come back for August, September, and October. And Bradish is a legitimate Cy Young candidate when he's out there healthy. And then Tyler Wells, again, who I have all the faith in. I have the highest of belief in. I believe Tyler Wells could be that guy when he is healthy. And hopefully, at the very least, he can pitch in the pen. He can be in that long relief role. And he could be a very solid player in that spot. All I'm saying is that this rotation right now is not complete because of the injured list. And hopefully those players on the injured list are coming back at some point to really help wherever this rotation is struggling. Whatever the names are that aren't performing are going to be probably the guys on the chopping block, unless there's an injury that comes up throughout that. But there is no guarantee that we get back those names, in which case, odds are, unless what I say comes to fruition and 1 through 5, these guys are consistently providing quality major league starts, we're going to have to go out and get some starters, gang. We are. We just are. Now, I'm not in panic mode yet, and neither should you be. It's still very early. And I, again, still believe in my heart, truly, fully, that we are going to get a lot of plenty good major league quality starts consistently, time and time again. But again, the rubber has to meet the road. The proof is in the pudding. We're going to see these pitchers pudding. All right? We're going to see the pudding, gang. Sorry if you're hearing Mr. Softy in the background as well. He's driving through the neighborhood of the studio. And as much as I would love to get out there and get myself some ice cream, I'm here doing the episode, gang, and no place I'd rather be. All right, so next we want to talk something that the fan base has been clamoring for a few years now, and rightfully so, the lack of extensions for our players. I mean, you look around the league, you see Jackson Chourio last year, Jackson Merrill just the other day, Christian Campbell, the Red Sox young star, or one of their Red Sox young star, Garrett Crochet, whoever it may be, all these deals going through Major League Baseball right now, extending young talent. And the Orioles have none of them. It's true. We've extended none of our young talent so far. So, what gives? What gives, gang? What's wrong? All right, well, let's just break it down by players in some categories, right? You have Gunnar and Jackson, and there are reports that Mike Elias is calling the agent for both of them every day or all the time trying to get a deal done. Unfortunately, that agent for both of them is Scott Boras, who notoriously never allows his players to sign an extension early, always has them hit free agency, whether for good or for bad. In recent years, he's gotten some bad luck, but certainly it only takes one deal away for him to prove his point, and it seems like he never gets off his point. So expect Jackson and Gunnar to never sign an extension before at least free agency. That sucks, but that is what it is. Now, we have heard that the O's are negotiating with Adley Rutschman's representation and that we're talking extensions. But, we can hear reports all you want. We have yet to get that deal done. When you look at Westberg and Cowser, I think those are definitely guys we could wrap up early as well as Adley. Guys that maybe don't have Scott Boras or an agent that insists on not taking that deal. And also have shown us not only the potential, but the consistency where we can trust giving that guy a deal and making him a part of this core for the future, guaranteed. All right. Then you also have guys like Heston, Povich, and Mayo. I think it's too early on those three guys. I really do. I like Heston a lot. I like Mayo and Povich a lot. But, we've seen inconsistent at best results from them in the major leagues. And as far as prospects go, while I do really like them, Heston and Mayo are power bats, which even though the league is power happy, sometimes can get discounted, guys that really only hit for power. And then you have Cade Povich, who's not a flamethrower pitcher, more a finesse pitcher, who isn't the most sought-after pitcher profile out there. So for those reasons, and again, the inconsistency so far in the majors, the lack of success for Kobe Mayo, and just the idea that they're going to want, if they were to sign an extension, they're going to want a number that I don't think that the Orioles are comfortable giving them, a $50 to $70 million contract for a guy who really hasn't proven that he can be that guy in the major leagues yet. I could see Heston, Povich, and even Mayo getting there at some point this season and being able to look at them and go, okay, I see it now. It looks like it's clicked for them. It looks like they feel comfortable up here. Let's lock them down because I think that they can be a part of this core moving forward. Now, the one real prospect that I would absolutely be looking to lock up at a big number even is Sam Basallo. He's a guy, obviously, we've been talking about forever. We even kind of wrote the song, hey, boom, 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 let me hear you say Basallo, Basallo, for him that I'm going to get around Birdland, I swear to you. However, he's just such an amazing prospect, and I really think he's going to be one of the best hitters in baseball when he does come up. And frankly, he could be up right now succeeding, but the Orioles are just being cautious, and especially because of roster construction, they don't necessarily have the spot for him to play right away. So allow him a little more seasoning in the minors. I would love, maybe more than anyone on this list, for the Orioles to lock up Sam Basallo. to like a 9-year, $90 million deal. I know that sounds insane, gang. Maybe not that high. But lock him up for 60, 70 million before he even hits Major League Baseball. Either way, though, I fully expect at least a couple of these extension deals to get done by this time next year. Remember, gang, at this time last year, the new ownership had literally just taken over for the Angeloses. Remember, that happened on the day before opening day. So at this point, they want to get their feet wet. They want to be able to hear opinions. They want to get their experts and their analysts and everybody else together and make sure they get the information, and they need some time to negotiate. And I fully expect that this time next year, we have the likes of Adley Rutschman, Jordan Westburg locked up, potentially Colin Cowser, Sam Basallo locked up as well. And if the season goes right for these three guys, Heston, Povich, and Mayo could all as well get their extensions. We'll see. And I think at that point, then the fan base starts to feel a little better, says, hey, we have this core locked up for this much time. We gave them this deal. We're going to be able to get ahead of the free agency, not only take away maybe a year or two of the free agency, not worry about their arbitration years, but also, when the time comes, maybe get in front of locking them up on that next contract and not having them get in this routine of wanting to test free agency. Keeping this core together. And maybe at that time is about the time Gunnar and Jackson are up. And who knows, just because they're Boras clients doesn't mean they have to sign with a different team. Certainly, maybe with the new ownership, we have the hope of keeping all of these guys together. But it just has to be the right price at the right time and happen over the course of everything. It's not all going to happen immediately, all right? So do not panic yet about the lack of extensions from the Orioles in their young core. I do believe it's coming, at least in the sense of by this time next year, we should have at least 2 or 3 of them locked up. And then it can start to breathe, and then we can start to focus attention on others and have a better idea of adding free agents with money and budgets and everything else. I have a very, very good feeling, gang, that the extension talk is going to start working out. And that could even happen as soon as by tomorrow. I know that sounds insane, but a lot of times it happens on like an off day, a travel day, something along those lines. So the news could break on like an Adley or a Westy extension any moment, gang. But hopefully at least by this time next year. All right, so in this early season, I do want to highlight some of the early standouts. There are certainly some guys struggling a little, and there are certainly guys that are just kind of middle of the road. But there are a nice group of players who are absolutely standing out from the field. First of which is the guy we just kind of talked about in Zach Eflin. So far, he's 1-1 record-wise, a 3.75 ERA, 7 Ks to 1 walk, a .92 whip. Phenomenal stuff so far from Zach Eflin. Really the only starter that we can feel really good about at the moment moving forward. Now, again, I think the other starters we will be able to feel good about very soon, but so far the only standout from the rotation in a positive way is Zach Eflin. Cedric Mullins has to be the first hitter that I bring up because Cedric has absolutely started the season hot. We know he had a rough camp, but that did not slow him down out of the gate, batting .308 with 3 homers, a double, and 2 stolen bases, showing that 30-30 potential again. Knock on wood, gang, because certainly there's a long season, but in 1 week, 3 homers and 2 stolen bases, you have a chance to go 30-30 again as Cedric Mullins. Jordan Westburg, one of the guys we said we expect maybe to get extended, is batting .375 to start the season, 3 home runs, and has had a hit in every game except one of them. I believe it was the second game of the season. Tyler O'Neill, one of the new bring-ins, and the muscle man, Tyler O'Neill. batting .364 to start the year. 1 home run, 1 double, 5 RBIs. Now, in the last 2 games, though, he is 0 for 8. So that's just how hot he started this season. Still batting .364 despite an 0 for 8 stretch at this point, the last 2 games. But expect him to turn it back around and put up some big numbers for us moving forward. Jackson Holliday, it's great to see him starting off the season well, and he's batting .304, has a dinger, has a double, has a stolen base, has a hit in 5 of his 6 games he's played. Jackson's really being that guy. We've seen him wait back, go the opposite way on some of these pitches, including one today for his double. I love what we've seen out of Jackson Holliday so far, and he's kind of just being the player that we actually expected him to just come up and be last year. He had to work some through things. He has that toe tap now, and it seems like it's working for him, playing very well in the field, running a little, hitting for power a little, hitting for contact. You love the full player profile from Jackson Holliday, and we're seeing it all right now. Adley Rutschman, not the best average so far, .259, but he does have 2 home runs, obviously both coming on that opening day game in Toronto. Does have a double, does have a stolen base. However, he has had a hit in 5 of 6 games played this season. And then Ramon Urias, who might have been on the outs with Gunnar Henderson coming back had he not had the stat line that he had in this first week, gang. Instead, it's probably going to be Dylan Carlson, like I said. But Ramon Urias batting .429, leading the Orioles in batting average right now. Started off the season 0 for 4 also in that first game, so he's 9 for 17 since. A batting average of .529 since that first game. Also has a double, 4 RBIs. 3 of them did come in a single game, though. But still, Ramon Urias just hitting well to start this season. We know he plays a good third base. We know he can play a little second and first as well. But Ramon's bat has come to play this season, and it's probably saved his spot on the team. That and Talkin Cowser going down, because I'm truly curious what would have happened if Cowser was healthy when Ramon came back. I guess we would see the answer if, for whatever reason, Dylan Carlson stays on this team tomorrow with Gunnar coming back, and then we see the correlating move, which would have been the move, I guess, if Cowser was still healthy. Personally, though, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's going to be Carlson, and we'll never know what may have happened to Ramon Urias had he not started out this hot and had Talkin Cowser get hurt. So now when we look at the bullpen, some good standouts, including Brian Baker, the last man on the roster, a guy that we were talking about, hoping made it to the team out of camp, has had 4 appearances, 4 2/3 innings, 0 ERA, 3 hits, no walks, 7 Ks. Brian Baker showing phenomenal stuff early in his 4 appearances. Sir Anthony Dominguez, 3 appearances, 2 2/3 innings pitched, no ERA either, 0 earned runs, 0 runs, 1 hit, 2 walks, 2 Ks. Gregory Soto, the other ex-Phillies pitcher in this bullpen, in his 3 appearances, he's pitched 2 1/3. Again, a 0 ERA, giving up 2 hits, 2 walks, but he has 7 strikeouts in just 2 1/3 innings, gang. Think about that. That means every out that Gregory Soto has gotten has been a strikeout. That's insane. That's insane. And then Yennier Cano also has 2 scoreless appearances to start his season, only giving up 1 hit, no walks, 3 Ks in those 2 appearances. So Cano starting off the season hot as well. We've talked about how this bullpen could be a major X factor, even while we wait for Andrew Kittredge to get back and wait for Felix Bautista to fully get into the groove. And this bullpen mostly has shown some really good stuff. Now, we do expect better things out of some of them, but we're going to talk about that in a second. What we have next is the Fightin' Revival, okay? And you might not know what I'm talking about, but you may have seen these new necklaces on some Orioles players. They're called Fightin' necklaces, and it was a big thing about a decade ago when all these players were coming up through high school and college and really working their ways up through systems. Long time ago, it was kind of like a trendy thing for these baseball players to have, I don't know, these twine necklaces. I don't even know what they are. Technically, they're supposed to improve health levels and stuff. There aren't really any scientific studies to back that, but we've been seeing a lot of guys wearing them. We've seen Adley, Cowser, Mountie, Sagano, Kramer, O'Hearn, just the ones that I've personally noticed. Maybe there's even more wearing them. And it started with Gunnar and Mountie talking about it in spring training and ended up putting in an order for them and then handing them out to some guys, and a lot of guys kind of vibing on it and enjoying it. I love the vibe as always, and it adds yet another level of good vibes to this team. Kind of things that's such like, again, like when I was growing up, or not growing up as a kid, but like a teenager and stuff. Like all these players, all my friends had these fighting necklaces. Like it was a big thing in the baseball culture. And it's kind of cool. It fits this vibe of these dudes and these bros all coming together and doing it. To quote Ryan O'Hearn, if the boys are going to wear one, I'll wear one. And he is just such a dude, along with these other dudes on the team. And I love it. I love the vibe we got going on this team. I don't actually think it improves your health or anything. I don't think it will affect the play. But I do think it will affect the vibes. And I do like the vibes that it brings. And it's just got kind of this cool feeling, gang. And I can see us in the World Series all with our fighting necklaces on. I think that the fans in Birdland are going to get into the fighting necklaces, and you're going to be seeing a lot of them around Baltimore this summer, gang. All right, so let's preview real quick the road trip ahead. The Orioles headed out after the game today to Kansas City to face the Royals in a wild card rematch. Looking for revenge for these O's as the Royals swept us out of the wild card round last year. Very devastated about that. The Royals this season are off to a 2-4 start. Both teams, them and the Orioles, have lost their last two. So we'll see which one of them goes on a 3-game losing streak and which one of them bullets out of it tomorrow. Hopefully the Orioles are the team coming out on top and getting back in the win column. The pitching matchups in this series are going to go as followed. You have Dean Kramer versus Seth Lugo tomorrow. Got Tomo Sagano versus Michael Wacha on game 2. And then you got Povich Bubic in game 3. Sounds like a Christmas album or something along those lines. Povich and Bubic do Christmas. Something along those. But Bubic is a nice pitcher. Obviously, Povich we like a lot. Decent pitching matchups for the Orioles. When you look at it exactly, the Orioles have limited experience against Lugo and Bubic. So, not necessarily all negative, but just, maybe a couple plate appearances for some of the guys. Whereas, if you look at Michael Wacha, who's been around the league for a while, the Orioles players tend to have a really good history against Wacha. So, be on the lookout for the Orioles to really mash in game 2 of that series. Hopefully, they can also mash in 1 and 3 and come out with at least 2 wins against the Royals in that wild card rematch. After that, they head down south to Arizona to play the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks are 4-2 coming into today. They also are playing right now, finishing their series against the Yankees. After the Yankees game, they're going to head down to D.C. to play the Nationals before headed home before that Orioles series. Kind of nice in the sense that Arizona has this longer East road trip that then they have to come home and travel, just like the Orioles have to travel into Arizona. So it's not like they're sleeping in their beds for a week leading up to that series. Gotta love something about that. Now, at first, you thought maybe we'd see Corbin Burnes early. Unfortunately, right now he's scheduled to pitch in that last game in D.C., or maybe fortunately, I should say, he's scheduled to pitch in that last D.C. game. So we're doubtful to face Corbin Burnes unless he gets scratched and pushed back for whatever reason. We do expect at the moment to face Zach Gallen, Kelly, and Fat. 3 pitchers who are very solid for these Diamondbacks, especially Gallen, but Fat has a lot of swing and miss stuff. and Kelly is no joke either. So it's not an easy trio to face for these Diamondbacks, who may get off with not facing their ace necessarily, but some would argue that Gallen and maybe Fat or even Kelly is more of an ace than Corbin Burnes will be for this team moving forward. Again, some may argue. I'm not necessarily saying that. But Zach Gallen's actually from a neighboring town of mine, so kind of a local legend from my parts of the country, if you will, in South Jersey. But listen, we got 6 games, 3 in Kansas City, 3 in Arizona. Really hoping we can go at least 4-2 on that road trip, but certainly these teams are not cakewalks, and the pitching matchups are not easy, especially in Arizona. So, frankly, I'd be happy coming back home 3-3 on the road trip. Coming back home still 1 game under 500 for our home stretch. And then we can turn it around while we're home for 10 days after this road trip. So that's where the Orioles are headed to as far as this road trip coming up starting tomorrow. Very excited to see how we play these tougher teams. The Royals might not be the toughest of teams, but certainly they're pesky, and we saw how they can beat us in the postseason last year. Diamondbacks were in the World Series 2 years ago, so certainly they could potentially be very dangerous this year, and if nothing more, their pitching staff is very, very tough. So hopefully we perform well on that road trip, gang. Now, to wrap up the episode, I'm just going to kind of talk real quick about how I'm feeling. How are we feeling right now after a week of the season? Well, not necessarily the start we want at 3-4 like we've talked about, but I'm still feeling very, very optimistic of this team as a whole and about this season in general, gang. The offense has shown their potential with the addition of Gunnar tomorrow. That's only going to help with the consistency. Obviously, the loss of Cowser for a couple months will hurt. But again, in the net, adding Gunnar should add more than losing Cowser ultimately. So still a net positive, and hopefully we get Cowser back in 2 months, ready to roll and healthy and performing up to his level while everybody else is still healthy as well. And we can keep the core healthy together moving forward down the stretch. Pitching obviously needs to improve, and we need them to prove they can be who we expect them to be ultimately. Again, I don't need them to be this ace. I don't need them to be elite starters through the league. I just need them to consistently provide quality starts. And I think that they will wind up being able to do that, at least the majority of them. And again, if 1 or 2 is not capable of that, those are the guys who are probably on the outs once Grayrod comes back, once Bradish hopefully comes back, and once Tyler Wells potentially comes back as well. Bullpen has been mostly solid, and I do expect better results from Bautista, Perez, and Aiken. Perez and Aiken have both struggled. 2 of our 2 big lefties out of the pen, outside of Gregory Soto, who has been dominant. We just need at least one of those other lefties to be good. You need at least 2 quality lefties. I expect Perez and Aiken to both get back into the groove of it and be successful. And obviously, like I've talked about, Felix Bautista, I believe, will be that guy moving forward. Just give him a little time to get his wheels under him, all right? I still very much expect these Orioles to be one of the best teams in baseball throughout the entire season. And it might be a tough start, but ultimately, I would rather end late. I would rather be very hot late in the season than very hot early in the season, right? If you're going to win 100 games and you're going to tell me in the first half you can win 40, in the second half you can win 60, or in the first half you can win 60, in the second half you can win 40, give me the one where you're winning 60 at the end, because then you're hot going into the playoffs, and those are the type of teams that make noise, get to the World Series, and potentially win it all, gang. So that's what it's about, getting hot at the right time. You can't win it now, but you can certainly lose it now. So living around 500 for the first couple weeks, and then maybe, slowly progressing a few games here and there above 500, slowly, steadily, just increasing here and there, but ultimately remaining fairly just above average in the first half of the season. but being exceptional in the second half of the season, that leads to great things, gang. So just stay in it. You know, we just got to stay in the hunt for the first month or two. And then you can make your run. So that's how I'm feeling, gang. I'm feeling that we're still primed and positioned to make that run when it's all said and done. That we're still going to be one of the best teams in baseball. And frankly, I still think we might have an AL pennant coming our way later this year. And potentially a World Series, gang. And ain't that what it's all about? Getting back a World Series to the Baltimore Orioles? I know that's what it's about for me. And that's why I sit here and talk to all of you, Talkin Orioles Baseball Podcast. This is what I love. This is what I'm passionate about. I hope our new listeners really enjoyed themselves. Again, go like, follow, comment, questions, whatever. Interact with us, gang. Help us succeed. Tell your friends. Because I promise this is going to continue getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We met somebody and he mentioned, oh, I'm the 57th subscriber. At least I got him at the beginning. Yeah, man, you caught me on the ground floor. But I promise, just like I told a girl last year at the Marriott when I was telling her about it, one of our first subscribers ever probably. I was saying, you're going to be telling your kids one day that I've been watching this guy since he had 50 followers, man. I've been one of the first people ever watching this show. And now look where it's gotten. Now it's on Masson. Now it's an Orioles-produced podcast. Now we're doing it from the warehouse. Now we're the official podcast of the Baltimore Orioles. That's where we're headed, gang. Whether you can see it or not, I can. I got the vision. And eventually, we're going to get there, gang. I promise. So stick with us. A lot of fun stuff coming this season. Just a fantastic episode we just had. Always a pleasure talking to you. This was another episode of the Talkin Orioles Baseball Podcast. Let's go, O's!
Talking baseball, baseball.